So she's in the Teams call. In South Africa, you would say she's with the Mkulu bosses. But the big bosses, the CEOs, the CTOs, all the COs people. When she catches herself, she was about to say, I'm not sure, maybe we should try something in Q3. But she stops mid-sentence, rephrases, and says, the key action point is a pilot in Q3. That's not how she initially thought that she was going to say it, but she knew the bot was running. She said it for the summary, not for the room. Okay, any of you that have Teams calls or even in-person calls these days, in-person calls, I guess that's just a meeting, you know of Microsoft Copilot or Otter AI or Fireflies. These are all AI tools that join the meeting, usually on a call, and they're a silent participant. And they transcribe everything said in the meeting and produce the meeting notes, a summary of what happened during the meeting after the fact. Key decisions, action items, who said what within seconds of the call ending. Fireflies reports adoption at 75% of Fortune 500 companies. And if any of you have been on a call with one of these AI transcribers, it's a bit weird because they join as a normal person. Obviously, they have no camera on, but they're just there. And then as soon as the meeting's over, you get an email with the summary of what was said. They are physical device versions of these note takers. There's something called Claude. Makes this like wearable recorder pendant kind of thing, which can be used in meetings, but can also be used in interactions with random people. Now, I'm not going to talk about that just yet because there's a lot of other AI physical devices that we can talk about, but I want to talk about this note taker, this meeting note taker. Because these tools, they do two things. They transcribe and they summarize. The transcript is everything that was said in the meeting, and then the summary is the interpretation of what mattered in those meetings. And that's important. So there's a long, slightly controversial history on who becomes the person that takes the notes in meetings. And stereotypically speaking, to women or junior people in the room, the ones whose speaking time in the meeting, it will be costly if they are writing minutes. So they become the ones that write down the notes. But the person with pen, the person typing the notes, had power, at least in my opinion. I have many times, because I work in a very male-dominated industry, were being like, oh, well, can you take notes for this meeting? And you're like, okay, fine, I'll take notes. But I think people don't realize how much power they gave me. Because I decided what the meeting meant. Because what got written down about the notes became the record of the meeting. What didn't get written down, it only lives in people's memories. The note taker's power, I think, is very real. Because when you read the meeting notes back, you read my interpretation of how the meeting went. Okay, so the question is, why did we move from humans taking notes to AI taking notes? And you're like, Bianca, that is a kind of a rhetorical question, because it just makes efficiency sense, and it gets rid of the human bias, right? Because when a human is taking notes in the meeting, as we just said, they had the power to choose what was important. So their bias was initially transcribed. Susie would write down or type while the meeting was ongoing. And as she was typing or writing, she was filtering what was important to go into these notes. And let's say that the stuff, she understood half of the meeting. There were two projects discussed, and she was on one of the projects, she was not on the other one. So the one that she knew about and she knew the nuances about, her notes were quite comprehensive around that. But project B, which she didn't know about, she didn't have that comprehensive notes because she didn't explicitly know what was the important information, other than the fact that I should probably write down these things. And it wasn't like she was actively doing this on purpose. Yes, there are certain biases that humans have where they could be like, you know what, I am more friends with Bianca, therefore I'm gonna maybe paint Bianca in a nicer light in these notes. There is that, and that does exist in taking notes. And that's why I said previously, the note taker actually has a lot of power. Even though they're given to seemingly lesser than people, they do have a lot of power. And what results in the meeting notes was her version of the meeting. Now, AI comes along and it transcribes, and it's so good at this nowadays. It has increased within the past year. It's actually insane as to how good it is at transcription. Word for word, the entire meeting, whether the meeting is 15 minutes or it's a 3-hour long meeting, it doesn't skip a beat. But the key here with this transcript is that nobody is going to read this word for word transcript. People do not have time for that. They were in the meeting, and the ones that weren't in the meeting do not want to read that. So a summary is needed. Again, we're filtering bias. Now we're filtering off a transcript that was obtained, and the AI does the summary as well. A different place, you could say, where the bias is injected. Susie was straight away when she was writing. Here, it takes the transcript and then creates a summary. And this is what makes AI feel a little bit more objective in the sense of meeting notes. And that's why a lot of people have started to use it, because it's more objective, and you know what? It is so much more convenient, and we get better, it seems like we get better outputs, and we don't have to have someone in the room actually take the notes. They can be part of the meeting. So on all accounts, it seems like a better option. And I don't disagree with that, but I think we must know what is going on in this notion of a summary by AI. Because there's some peer-reviewed research here that was published in April 2025 in the Royal Society of Open Science. And they tested 10 major AI models. And they found that some of them consistently overweight certain sentence structures, and then also overgeneralize what was said. Then there was separate work that found that when these models summarize group conversations, they tend to reflect the majority view and then lose the minority one. The bias, it didn't disappear when Susie stopped taking the notes. It just moved somewhere a little bit less visible. And this is where I find it gets interesting, because as I mentioned, Susie had a little bit of power in the notes that she was taking. Now, the power has shifted to those who are a little bit in the know, who have noticed this. And let me explain. Bruce Schneer, he's a security researcher and a fellow at Harvard. He wrote about this thing in October 2025, so only a few months ago. And he called it AI summarization optimization. I wonder if you know where I'm going with this. Because what is happening in these meetings is that certain people are working out what phrases to say and how to say certain things such that the AI picks it up. Phrases like, the key takeaway here, and then also making their point early and then repeating it, keeping it clean and structured, and their speech shifting towards the way in which a summary will catch it. They figured out how the game works, and they're playing it very subtly.
Sure, Schneier, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and Evron, they put it quite plainly. They said the articulate are gaining an invisible advantage over the wise. Someone in a meeting has an idea. They say it in a way in which you discuss in meetings, oh, this is what I think, this is what we should do. And the algorithm may not weigh it that heavily because it was a point and then we moved on to another type of discussion. Because it doesn't match the patterns of what the AI was looking for or what the AI recalls more strongly. Later, someone else in the room who knows how to get their point across to AI better says this exact same point just in a different way. The key strategic direction is X. And then that sentence gets put into the summary. That person's name is next to it. When this happens once in a while, it doesn't really matter because it's a team effort. But if said person has figured this out and in every single meeting in the future does this thing, speaks such that the AI puts their name in the summary with the best point, they go back and they ask for a raise after in their yearly meeting, and they say, look at all these meeting notes with me being cited as the person doing the best thing or coming to the conclusion or solving the problem. What does that look like? That looks like that this person is a star performer. But that person just knew how to get their name onto the summary. And Schneion and Evron, they compare it to SEO, the slow, invisible optimization of speech for an audience that nobody else can see. And the people that figure it out first may not tell others. It's a dog-eat-dog world, right?
So, like I said before, I like this one because humans are figuring out the game. And if we're going to start using these tools, we're saying, okay, let's work with these tools. Yes, it's detrimental to some people, but that, I guess, is in a dog-eat-dog world, that's what's got to happen. And it's one of those things why you need to keep on top of AI and technology such that you do not fall behind in the meeting when everyone is talking for the AI so that they can get the promotion. I know. I find it an interesting one. Anyway, there's apparently a terrible storm that's going to happen today, so I need to get outside with a raincoat. But I will check you guys on the next one.